You know, everybody, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. And I'm not going to name any names. I'm just probably going to name publications. But you know, here's the thing, folks. When an anniversary issue comes up for a comic book, you know, published by a certain comic publication, and probably based on a certain franchise, either from video games or movies or television, you know, some people always hope that something big will happen, or the writers will come out and say that something big's going to happen to a character, and that some things will never be the same. And sometimes they say these effects that happen in said anniversary issue will last for years. We've seen this happen many times, including to the point that some people have said, or that some previews have stated, if you will. In fact, we've had some previews state that a character will die or their life will hang in the balance. And when this happens, a lot of characters' names come up. Some out of obvious reasons, as to maybe there's hints and everything that they could be that character. You know, some hints like that. You know, that they could be that character whose life hangs in the balance or is at death's door. And there's, you know, also, you know, reports sometimes that, well, there's also names that come up of characters that, you know, people just don't like. And the reason these names come up sometimes as candidates is for those various reasons. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that argue the fact that this will not happen because this character is too popular, or this character has contributed too much to the franchise, to the book. But again, some come out and say that it's going to be this character, it's going to be that character, all because they just don't like the character. And also due to the fact that there are hints that go around in a comic book by the writer or the writers that it could be a character that ends up on death's door or has the life hanging in the balance. But there have been a lot of characters throughout the years that people said it could be in certain publications, yet it never is. You know, and here's a list of a lot of characters. I mean, well, I'm not going to give you the names again, like I said, but there's a list of a lot of characters that have proven that even though people would like to see them gone, they end up not being gone, and they remain. And that's what pisses a lot of fans, a lot of people off, because they don't get what they want. They don't get what they want because that character's still alive, even though they feel that character doesn't contribute. Now, sometimes, yes, a writer or writers could give hints that it could be a certain character, but then that said character isn't the one that gets, put on life support or gets put at death's door. Instead, it's somebody else. It's a twist. So the question is how do we know? We don't. Not until we read the issue in which it's described, in which said event is described to happening. Now to get on to another thing. I said that sometimes when these things happen in certain comic book publications, like say Marvel, DC, Archie, Top Cow, Wildstorm, Image, Boom Studios, that, you know, there are fans out there that would say, oh, I hope it's this character because then it allows this character to go with that character, or I hope it's this character because they don't contribute too much, or they shouldn't even be in the book, or blah blah blah, stuff like that. Just because a certain character, just because you don't like a certain character doesn't mean it's going to be that character. And just because you feel as though, hey, if romance-wise, if it removes one character to make room for another that you feel should be with the person you feel they should be with, or the character they should be with, doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, folks. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. Let me give you an example, if you will. Let me give you an example. Certain characters that you feel should be with said characters because it matches what they are in another material based, in which the comic book is based on, doesn't mean anything. I mean, yeah, certain writers and writers will, you know, go in that direction. There's no doubt. Now, I'm pretty sure any fans out there that are inspiring comic book writers or novel writers or whatever would want to do that when they get the chance. But guess what? It's not going to happen that way, no matter how much you look at it. No matter how much you look at it, it's never going to happen in the way you want, unless there is a writer out there that feels the same way you do. That's the only way certain things are going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. That's the only way. That's the only way certain things are going to happen, is if a writer or writers feel the same way as you do. But if they feel that the character is popular enough, and the character has contributed enough to said franchise, to said comic book, then they're not going to do anything to that character. As much as you would like that character to be off, as much as you would like that character to be at death's door. It's never going to happen that way, folks. It's not. Because there are a number of characters out there that have contributed so much to the book that despite how some other people feel about them, they're never going to be offed. In fact, there's two Southern characters in two separate books, two Southern female characters in two separate books that have contributed so much that not only do fans recognize it, but so does the writers, and that's why they'll never be offed. You know, there's a character in a comic book in which a Saturday morning cartoon was based off of back in the mid-90s on CBS, that she contributed so much that, you know, fans recognized it and they never offed her. You know what I'm saying? There are certain characters, ladies and gentlemen, in which, you know, even male characters, like there's a character in one famous comic book that shoots laser beams out of his eyes, and he's been around for a long time, and it's because fans like him. Same with the guy that brings out retractable claws and can't really be hurt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are characters that are so popular with the fans that no matter what other fans feel about them, they're never going to be off because they contributed too much to the comic book and the franchise. You know, and again, just because you want you know, like a certain character with another certain character because that's how it is in the material or the franchise in which a comic book is based off of, doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean just because they're with said person in a television show or a video game or a movie or whatever other material comes out, graphic novels, you know, it doesn't mean that said character is going to be the same way in the comic book it's inspired off of, or vice versa. And just because you feel, oh, if this character dies it makes room for that character, doesn't mean it's going to happen that way. Especially when one writer or head writer of the book calls that character that you want out of the picture one of the strongest female characters in the book. Don't you get it? You may not like a character, you may hate a character, and you may feel, hey, if that character's out of the way, the comic gets closer to the material that it's based off of. Doesn't mean anything. Especially when a writer or a head writer comes out and says that they want to take the other character in which you feel that character should be with because that's the way it is in the material, or vice versa, doesn't mean that character is going to be the same as in said material. If they seem to be acting different in the comic or vice versa than they are in the comic and vice versa, then that's how they're going to be portrayed. It's called trying to separate things and make things individualized, make things different. Don't you get it, folks? That's what it's called. It's not called, oh, let's make things the same. I mean, yeah, there are certain things like that, but okay, let me give you one more example. There's a few animated cartoons in which Boom Studios is making comic books off of now. They'll air back in the 80s, 90s, and all that. And some of their material is different than what you see in the later cartoons. They do things that the cartoon never did. Don't you see? It doesn't matter how much you want a certain show to be, or a certain comic book to be like show, or vice versa. It's never going to be the same. So even if in an anniversary issue, which could be a cliffhanger issue, and many have done that, just because it says a certain major or mid-major character is going to be on death's door or have their life hanging in the balance, doesn't mean it's going to be said character. Even if you see the sketch art proposed cover, doesn't mean it's going to be that character, folks. You just got to live and learn. That's all. You just got to live with it if it's said character or not. So, but you know, I thought I'd just say something about that because I know a lot of people have been talking about certain things in anniversary issues, and I thought I'd just get that off my chest. And you know, some of you may know what I'm talking about, but if not, go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And I am out because right now I'm heading into church.